Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dice here on Cabot Crossing's YouTube channel, where we break down different RPG tips and reviews of different games and all that good stuff. And what we're doing tonight, or this episode, is we're talking about our experience with Cybersymbiosis with not only the GM but the creator of the game, Woody.
I had a copy of the book. Oh well, yeah.
Who wrote a fumble on his investigation?
Probably in a box somewhere.
Well, sitting right next to me, and suddenly I don't see it. But yeah, I've got a. Yeah, well, the one I have is like the one that's all taped up. That's the original like playtest copy that I had. But I do have my business card with a copy of the picture of the role playing game here. So yeah, anyways.
So we will have a genre play episode of us gaming with these character names. Plus, Colton also was in that game.
Yes.
So just in case they haven't seen that yet or they don't watch it, can you just tell everybody what Cybersymbiosis is?
Yeah. So Cybersymbiosis. Here's my graphic novel. Greg has the original cover, our limited edition. This is the current one, but it's my comic book series that I've been doing for many years. It's a cyberpunk setting. Takes place in 2216. And so the full extent of all the world building that went into creating the comic book was way more than would ever appear on the page. And so we ended up deciding to put out a role-playing game as a companion to the comic book series. And so I've got this big 380-page core book. It's a combo player's guide, GM's guide, and all kinds of stuff that I think are massive quality of life improvements for 5e. And apparently, some of the things I did are being copied by WotC. I'm sure they knew they copied me on purpose. So,
Yes,
yeah. But no, I think it's a fun book. I sell a lot of them to people that want to do a cyberpunk game with rules they like, and it approaches it from a different viewpoint where it's like rather than playing a game where the characters are inherently jerks, like I kind of take it from more of like the heroic stance that you usually get in a lot of RPGs. And I also built it as a template so you could also spin it off into a superhero game if you wanted. So it's built to be flexible.
Cool. So like a heroic cyberpunk game, kind of like you have magic and non-humans too, or demi-humans. Yes. And so it's kind of like, so the most people would think compared to Shadowrun, right? Probably.
Yes. I'm not trying to be Shadowrun. I actually deliberately do a lot of different things. Like you can actually play an android in this one. And
as
like
someone who's done both, it feels nothing like Shadowrun. Like
no, it doesn't feel anything
technically
like it.
is, but it doesn't feel like it at all.
Yeah, it's as I was just in there during the other show we were doing. I like to describe the game as how I described earlier was like the movie Krull meets Alien Nation. So that's a couple deep cuts, but those are where my inspirations are. So yeah, it's like the idea is like you've got had a fantasy world that got invaded, similar in premise to the movie Krull, and the good guys lost, and so they had to bail, and they ended up on Earth at a time when Earth looked like Ghost in the Shell, and so they ended up bringing their magic with them. So you got orcs and elves and dwarves, and then they've now dealing with humans and cybernetics and all the trouble happening on Earth. So it is ripe for adventure.
Nice. And the rule system was originally going to be 5e. It's still 5e compatible, right?
Yes. So, yeah. Well, during the development of it, there were lots of things I wanted to do, but I felt like I had to stay within a 5e framework because on a simple business decision, you should go where the customers are. If I was to make a whole original system, it would be much, much harder to sell it. And I don't think it would have been successful. But then when the OGL thing happened, which we don't necessarily need to get into here, but it was from those of us on the game development side, it was much uglier than it was for people who are just consumers, right? And one of the big things that was really impacting me is because I was doing comic books and I'm releasing my graphic novels as source books, so they contain information based on what's happening in the 5e content, this compatible content that's based on what's happening in the comic, right? So if I release that book and I have the compliance document, Wizards of the Coast was attempting to make changes that would have allowed them to legally steal the entire comic book from me, which I have
stealing third-party content.
Yeah, I have words about that, but there's absolutely no way. And so, what I ended up doing was taking all the things I actually had wanted to do that I wasn't doing, because I was so married to this idea of like compatibility, and just started making these, subtle changes. Like I got rid of spell slots and I put in a spell point system. We swapped out proficiency bonus for proficiency dice, which mathematically adds a lot of benefits to the game. Your lower level characters have a chance at success where they can attempt higher level things that they normally couldn't do, and your high level characters now have a chance of failure that they never had before, which is really needed. I think
I do like that, the scaling proficiency. I like that, and it's something that I think the DMG had as an optional rule, but because it was an optional rule, they couldn't do anything with it because it would break everything if they did, because it was only an optional rule.
Well, apparently it was actually the preferred rule. Like it's what what I hear the developers actually wanted to do, but they didn't do it because they thought it would have made the game too complicated, which the hell. But I actually learned about it from the animated spellbook. I didn't even know it was in the Dungeon Master's Guide at all. I just, I was watching an animated spellbook episode, and like he talked about that, and that's like so many things in those cartoons kind of saved my ass. Like particularly when I was trying to figure out how to fix the game. And then we also got rid of the feat system and reinvented it with a different perk system, as I call it. So these just little quality of life improvements.
Yeah, and you have draw, or we call it, is it drawbacks? Major flaw?
Yeah, major flaws. Yeah. So so I was listening to like requests people had, and like one of the requests that somebody had made was like, why can't we have 2 backgrounds? I'm like, why not? So I figured out how to do that. So the major flaw kicks in where if you want to take 2 backgrounds or get a much more expanded background with more abilities. And so the major flaw kind of gives you a way of like kind of balancing out that extra stuff. But it also, I think it's kind of fun because then your characters are imperfect. Yeah, I have players that just absolutely just live and die by those flaws. They think they're the best. So,
awesome.
and
so, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just there's just lots of things that there was a point where you just had to like just cut it off. Like the book already went 80 pages past my original page budget, and it's like just there's a point where you just have to stop, and it's like we just have to put the book out as is, and then the next stuff is going for has to be saved for later. So I could easily have put out a 700-page book right now if I wanted to.
Are you going to potentially do more books?
Oh, absolutely. I've already working on more.
Awesome.
The next book, well, there's 2 books I'm currently working on getting out for next year. One of them is the second graphic novel in the series, which unfortunately doesn't pick up the storyline where we left off in the first one, but that book's in production. We just had a behind the scenes kerfuffle that slowed it down. But I've got another book coming out that takes place entirely in cyberspace. And that storyline deals with with a bunch of people playing video games that kind of like end up in some other shit that they didn't expect. And it's kind of one of those things where the reader knows everything, but the players don't, because no one person is there for everything. So they kind of miss out. But I'll have that book coming out. And I'm also working on an major RPG book that's going to be an NPC guide, where the idea is to put out a book that has like basically every character class that's in the core book plus some new ones, and we have NPCs for every single one of those classes. So a game master would be able to pick up that book, sit down, and just essentially run the game right out of the book and not have to do as much prep work. Because I'm thinking about like what makes the game easier and more accessible for people, as opposed to like just adding more complexity.
Yeah. Did you pick like how many perks do you get in this system? So, in 5e it's like 1 every 4. If you do feats, 1 every 4 levels. Which is...
well, the way the perk system works is everybody gets a full. Okay. So you get 3 perks every time you get the ability, and you get 3, and so the perks can be spent on whatever you want. So you can get the equivalent of a feat, or you can divide it up. So you're not limited by one category of abilities where you all have to take like sentinel stuff or whatever, like like you do in D&D. Like it's all magic or all combat. You can mix and match, and you can also spend them on stat points. So the way it works is 1 perk can get you 1 stat point, and then you can get 2 stat points and still get a special ability.
That's funny. That's like rules light leveling up.
Yeah,
that's kind of how they usually do it.
Yeah. So but it's set up so that mathematically it's the same as if you got a feat at every level, but you also but then you also get a special ability, so it's like it's still mathematically better for the players.
Because that's yeah, and 5e you're always like, well, I got to find the one that gives me strength, but I also want something else. I only want one strength. I don't want 2 strength.
Well, right, and you can just put them wherever you need it to be, right? And
Yeah.
then you also get 3 perks at level 1, but you can't get extra stat points at level 1, which fixes one of the loopholes that was wrong with how they did it in 5e. Because you can, like the sacrifice, like I'm trying to remember my complaint, but I can't think of pull it all together. Basically, there's kind of like a thing where you can like double up on stuff. Anyways, but regardless, like you can't buy stat points level 1, so you just have what you have. But also we kept half breeds, so you can still play half orcs. You can play half elves.
God, why did they get rid of that? It makes no sense.
Because they're politically correct.
I guess
that's dumbing down of the game. That's not good.
But I don't even know why that one's politically correct. It's just like they exist in real life.
Yeah, well apparently half elves are racist.
Oh, okay.
Against who I'm not sure, but so. But like narratively, it fits in universe for for my game, the lore it fits within the background lore.
In your quick start guide, do you have the entire lore background, or is that
no? Well, I mean, like if you want the basic lore of the game, you just read the first page of the comic book series, right? And you get a quick version of that. And the quick start guide is just basically taking viewpoint of like you got the player's handbook. Here's how we're different. You go have fun. Like it talks a little bit about the rules, but the assumption is that people already know how to play 5e. So it just goes into a brief description of the differences, gives you some characters and a starter adventure, and then you're good to go. And that's for free on the website.
Yeah, I would say the thing that differentiates Cybersymbiosis from other games is like you might think, oh, it's just 5e or it's a modified 5e, but there's just concepts in it that are just completely different than 5e. And even completely different than a lot of others are sometimes equivalent to other Cyberpunk. But like the fact that you have an entire narrative around the net and what do you call it? I don't want to say astral plane, but that's because I'm a fantasy guy.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So the astral plane is set up. Yeah. Well, the astral plane and cyberspace are both set up so they could be entire campaign settings.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. The whole cyberspace thing is very it's different. There were some other things in it that were like technology. The way you deal with technology is simple but also different.
Well, one of the complaints I think a lot of people have with cyberspace is like you've got the hacker character in a Cyberpunk game, and usually the hacker character is their part of the mission. Everybody grabs a sandwich or plays a hand of magic or something and waits.
Yes. Oh God, I was a technomancer, and it was just like an entire. You literally had if you're in combat and you're hacking, you have an initiative inside of an initiative to deal with all the computer stuff. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
and one of the things I actually thought was really good about the 5e version of Shadowrun was that they put everybody on the same initiative. So your hacker character can do his stuff at the same time everybody's having their combat, but which of course I've done that here as well. But like, the main gripe about these hacker rules in these other games is that they unless you specialize in being a hacker and you double down on it, there's no reason to even have it in the game, because like without being a specialist, it's useless. It's virtually useless. And so one of my goals was to make it so cyberspace is for everybody, and any character could participate in that part of the mission or contribute in some way. And I think well, I think see, that's the way it be, because like cyberspace is a massive marketplace, like internet, right? And the big corporations want everybody using it. And it would be the same way in a cyberpunk future. And
but also like
of cyberspace.
It's Meta's dream.
It is like, but like also just the origination of everything in Cybersymbiosis, of how the races came together, of how you deal with the asteroid belt and Mars. I think are the two most biggest colonies outside, like it's just very different than any other system. Like you see it and you're like, no, this isn't copying anything.
Well, I'm definitely trying not to. I mean, like you're not going to be meeting any dragons anytime soon.
No.
you know, with cyberspace, one of the things I also wanted to do was like I tried to make it be the cyberspace we're actually getting, not what we thought we were going to get in 1980. You know, so it's you know it's full of video game worlds. And
that's why the inflation's there, right?
Yeah. I literally thought it would be funny.
And then it became real.
yeah, and then it stopped being funny. Yeah.
It would be kind of cool though. You mentioned a dragon. Like say there was like a dragon who actually went through the ritual as well, and he's just living like a shapeshift human somewhere, and he's actually like a dragon in the world.
Well, the thing is that's
for thousands of years.
That's what Shadowrun does, right? And it's just, you know, I don't want to do what the other games are doing. Like you know, I mean, like yeah, I mean, it would be fun to have them. I mean, and they do exist in that universe, by the way. They're just not on Earth, and they're not going to be. You know, you know, it's like not that I'm necessarily like, you know, being the anti-Shadowrun or anti-Cyberpunk 2027 or whatever. But it's like I just, you know, like there is a place for something for original work, and you don't have to do the same thing everybody else is doing. You know, and it's, you know, and for me, it's starting with making the heroic archetype relevant. You know.
Yeah, I know. I'm always Shadowrun. I'm like, we're playing a Criminal again.
And that's the thing. It's just, what are we stealing this week? And they literally have it built into the game mechanics that it's being a good guy is a punchline. And I'm just, but like, that's not what most players are going to gravitate towards. Like you're going to have those players that are like the classic disruptive player, or they just want to be bad or whatever, you know. But like in reality, the majority of players out there are going to gravitate towards the heroic archetype. And so I think that we should build something that rewards that, like makes that possible. And it's like other campaign styles other than the heist crew of the week, it shouldn't be an afterthought, you know. So
it's my favorite to play too. I mean, I like sci-fi a lot, but whatever I end up playing, I like playing the heroic archetype. I can't help it. I want to make a character that gets along, that wants to do heroic things, that wants to work with the people, you know. It's just
that's because like humans are basically good. We're social, you know, we want to get along. And so like, you know, our RPGs would not function as a game unless we could be cooperative with each other and get along and be friends. Yeah. So and it's set up so you can have like, you could be, you know, the Ghost in the Shell anti-terrorism squad. You could have a RoboCop type character. You could just be adventurers. You could be explore space, you know, like it's you know, there's a whole lot of stuff that you could do.
Do you have spaceship mechanics? I never even looked actually.
Not yet. It's coming, but it's down the line. There's a lot of other stuff I gotta have, you know, first. So
because I was taking DC-20 and seeing how hard it'd be to implement Star Wars in it, and what I ended up deciding for spaceship, because you know my problem is I've never seen a good spaceship system. Actually, all the ones I've played have always been kind of meh. Actually, and they're not great, and they're repetitive and stuff. And so I figured, you know what? Just make it a skill challenge. Like let people use their skills and just have it be a skill challenge. What skill are you using? What skill are you using? And just see how the rolls go. And if they fail a certain amount of times, things happen. If they succeed a certain amount of times, things happen. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think the real challenge with that kind of thing is you got to set it up so you keep everybody involved. Because like from a GM's perspective, like, you know, you're responsible for keeping everybody engaged in the story. And if somebody sits out, that's, you know, that is a failure, right? And so but it's the same thing with a spaceship system where you have to give them something to do. And so the ship is either going to be a combat vessel where they're getting into fights, which means now they have damage that they have to account for, and eventually that ship is just going to be damaged beyond their capacity to repair it, or it is a way to get somewhere. And but you know, common encounters could involve boarding parties. It doesn't necessarily have to be ship to ship, you know. And I've got And I've got vehicle combat rules in the book, and those could easily translate with some adjustment over to starfighter combat, you know. So it's you know, like I've got the foundation there. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like, I've done Star Wars 5e spaceship, and I've done Starfinder spaceship battles, and I didn't like either of them. It just felt clunky and long and repetitive.
I was a little disappointed in the spaceship section for Star Wars 5e because they didn't have any default ships, at least that I saw, and it would be nice to have like just a drag and drop ship, but I also like they couldn't potentially because they would have they can't use the Millennium Falcon, and that's what people want. You know, like they can't put in X-wings. So
I think they they couldn't? Like, I thought because they weren't making money on it, they could. I don't know how that works,
I
actually.
don't know. That was my assumption, that they were they were trying not to get themselves in trouble.
I did find someone who put together all those ships, but the problem is we're doing the Old Republic, so there was a lot less of those.
Yeah. Well, I think we could just make their own ships and put them in and call it good. You know, there's so many styles in the galaxy that we just never see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But no, it'd be interesting what you do there. But I like the rolling for proficiency. I don't know what you guys thought about that, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
especially with my not performance, but whatever it was, where I got double intuition.
Yeah. Well,
we'll
yeah.
say
2d4 is really nice bonus.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have a question. Like sometimes, you don't use the word, but you have the same concept of rolling with advantage.
Yeah.
And then you also have roll, but you have to take the next one. Those are two separate things, right? Like one you get to roll after, whereas when you roll with advantage, you have to pick beforehand, right? Is that the way it works?
I think that certain things like that are kind of up to the game master how they want to handle it. Because I have the advantage and disadvantage mechanic, but I cut the word advantage and disadvantage out of the book because again, I don't want to be OGL, right?
You just say roll twice.
Yeah, roll twice to take the higher, take the lower.
Does.
Yeah, and then but I use something called opportunity, which allows you to increase the value of your proficiency die, and then vulnerability would decrease it, and it's another bonus that's not so severe. Because like one thing I don't like about 5e is like you get this, everything is handled with this massive bonus, and it's like you're solving every problem with a hammer. And I think maybe there could be some subtlety there, and give your game master some more tools to play with.
I did notice something else you did too. It's like if it's like a knife or something, you have the type of damage. If it's punching and bludgeoning, but guns, you don't have the type of damage. Is that because they're just military grades and that's the type of damage or something?
No, well, because all guns are piercing.
Oh, it's just piercing. Okay, so let's assume piercing.
Well, if you look at the ammo chart below the gun list, it gives damage types based upon the kind of ammo you're using.
Cool.
So you can switch out ammunition to give your gun different properties.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can get like explosive bullets that do explosive damage instead of piercing.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So you can get quite deep into that, or you can just say it's a gun. And just
so it's piercing unless the property says different, I guess, right?
Exactly. And then certain kinds of bullets have different properties. Like if you had full metal jacket ammo, then they have a chance of going through the target and hitting somebody behind.
Yeah, like in Call of Cthulhu, all guns are penetrating, piercing.
Yeah. And so, but I just like certain bullets would have less penetration. So again, like it can be as complicated as you want. Like I go into a lot of detail on some things and other things I don't, but because I feel like the GM's there for a reason, right? And so you need to give the game master something to do, and
especially if it's small enough just to make up on the fly, really, if you want.
Yeah, exactly. And so you could get really complicated with the rulings, or you can like let the GM do their job. Yeah. And so I deliberately don't address certain issues because there's a reason why we're there.
Yeah, make it your own.
Yeah, well, like I'm a big Palladium player, and I used to play that exclusively. But I still play it a lot. But like in the Palladium system, it's more of like a guideline series of rules, and they don't really address a lot of issues that are covered in modern games because they leave a lot for the game master to do. Like they deliberately intend you to customize the game to your play style.
Cool.
And so like the GM decides, because some classes are more powerful than others, some races are more powerful than others. So the GM decides what they want to allow, and then players pick from that, and that's what you roll with. And I kind of like come from that viewpoint. So it's like I think that like don't take away the game master's like job for it's like this whole thing of like I don't believe that players should be holding the rulings over the game master's head. Like it's that's not the cooperative play style that makes the game fun. You should, the GM's there to be part of the participant in the story to help make the story happen so you can have a good time. He's not there to be an opponent.
Like this would be more for the GM discussion if we had that. But like I was thinking, I won't ever follow it, and I feel like I should. The rule that you should never look up rules during a game. You should just go with something and then look it up after the game. You know,
I think that if you can't find the answer in 30 seconds, you need to make it up and keep going. Like if you know where it is, you give yourself a 30-second counter, go quickly look it up, reference it, done, go. If you can't, then yes, it should be addressed afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing Pathfinder and trying to figure out grappling.
Yeah. Good. Or Animated Spellbook did this great video about the grappling rules for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, well, that's what Pathfinder took it from. I think they actually made it more complicated. They were trying to make it simpler, made it more complicated. But
apparently, it's used as a percentile in AD&D.
Oh,
yeah. Just watch the video. It's fun. You're not going to understand it after watching the video, but at least it'll be you'll have a good time for 5 minutes.
It's gonna be one of those things where it's like they randomly added a percentile to the strength score, but then it just continues after that, like 19, 20, 21. It's like, why?
Yeah.
But I'm sure they had a reason.
Chaz, didn't you have a time limit tonight on this discussion? I'm feeling bad.
Oh, yeah.
We are kind of coming up on that.
Did you have some thoughts? You've been playing this
game a lot, but yeah.
You have more experience
unless you guys don't mind if I kind of tap out and you three keep going for as long as you want. It's totally up to you guys.
Did you have something you want to say? Because you literally have more experience with this than these two.
Because you've been gaming on Talking to Orville right there.
Yeah, and playing my other stuff too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys are sort of discussing it from a GM's point. From a player's perspective, it took me a little while because that was at least a year ago when Woody asked me to help him play test some of this. And he had me play a character that I've never played before and had no experience. I played a ranger and I had no experience with it. But I've been catching on really quickly and I'm having a lot of fun. And the more times that Woody sort of branches out and is doing stuff, and I mean we're play testing another branch. Although I hesitate to discuss it too much, especially in front of Woody, because I don't know if he wants me to talk about that or not. It's being a lot as a player. I'm having a ball, and of course with my dice being really all over the place. I mean, my dice know that there are more numbers than just 1 in 20.
Yeah. So the character you're playing, we could talk about. We can't talk about Mike's character on a forum that's being recorded because it's I have this friend I met at Comic-Con who wants to do. Okay, I can actually show something. So this isn't revealing too much, but he also has this book. It's the Rifts. It's a Cyberpunk source book for the Rifts RPG in their post-apocalyptic setting. So he was inspired by this book to create his own comic book, right? And so I saw his artwork at Comic-Con, was just drawn to it, and then I had to go talk to him, like, what is this? And then we find out we both have the same inspiration with this thing, and so I'm helping him letter his comic book and help him with the creation of it behind the scenes, and then we're also discussing an RPG source book based on his comic. And so I've been developing content for him. And so our friend Mike is playing one of those characters. And this dude is tickled beyond belief, because he's got all these personal problems going on that I shouldn't talk about. But it's like his life's really full of turmoil. And then somebody takes his crazy creation and actually makes it happen. And so I'm making his day. But Mike's play testing one of his character classes, so we can't talk about that. But Chaz is playing a samurai cat. Catman,
the samurai cat, Mio Wara Tomokato from the Samurai Cat book series of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, and
complete with my nephew Shiro.
Yes, and we're also I'm also got permission to adapt some content from the Gamers Universe by Matt Vansel, and so these guys ended up going through the black circles, which unmake you in reality and then put you back together wrong, and Chaz ends up on a desert planet, which should be terrible for a Catman, and by some dumb effing luck, he rolls heat adaptation on the chart, and so suddenly he's walking around like, what? This is great.
Yeah. I'm cool as a cucumber.
Yes. And then Mike ends up rolling that he's got like photosynthesis in his skin now. So even though like he's still affected by the heat, he's like totally energized by the sun. So it's like both these guys are like, oh yeah, what's the problem? We're great. We're like, okay, so much for my challenging environment.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes.
But yeah, I would suggest anyone who wants to do the cyberpunk scene or just the sci-fi scene, this is probably the 5e option to go to, in my opinion. I mean, it really is the easiest. It's all the other ones. I haven't played Cyberpunk Red. I don't know if you have, but the all the other sci-fi cyberpunk things I've played, I'm like, it's a drag. And this one, just like, it's easy. It clicks.
Well, from having sold the book for the last year at Comic-Con, like the main appeal that I encounter with people that I sell it to is that it's accessible. By itself, it's easier to learn, but it's like it's also many customers coming up already know how to play 5e, but they want to try these other games, but they don't want to learn the rules, or they find the rules complicated. So it's like, I've sold a ton of these things to people that want to play Shadowrun, but they want to have rules they like. I ran into a guy who wanted to play like a Mad Max thing, and he was so excited he didn't have to invent guns and cars, and so it's like all these elements. And as another thing too, by the way, is like I also make the book really easy to navigate. Like the physical book itself, I put page notations all through it, where it just literally tells you what page something's going to be on, as opposed to just like having to find it. And in the PDF version, if you get that, like that's stupid easy. Like there's a bookmark for every section in every chapter. It's it's very easy to navigate.
It's like for us, I mean, Woody made these characters. I think I made a character the first time I played it, but Woody made these characters, and it's like if you just know that you roll your proficiency, and that opportunity and penalty means you scale your proficiency die, you're basically good to go. Everything else you can just read what your ability does, and that's the game. I mean, that's the difference. Yeah. So it's good for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted it to be accessible, because it's like, I've met people that are making games, but like if you're making it so new and so different that they have to learn a brand new game system, it's really hard to get people to be interested in that, especially when Wizards of the Coast has done such a wonderful job of selling people on a particular play style.
Yeah. And I think that's why Daggerheart, which I think is a very fun game, everyone who plays it is like, wow, this game's great. It's just not taking off because it's just so different from 5e.
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's his biggest problem.
I think it'll take off if they start playing it on their show. Like
maybe.
Yeah.
I think it has other problems too. It has a problem where it can't take itself seriously because it's just like it has like frog people, monkey people, and all this stuff. And so it's like I was telling you, it's like you go up to this drug addict and he's like shivering and he's down on his luck, and he looks up and he sees a mushroom and a frog and a cat walking towards him and says, "Howdy." It's like it's hard to take seriously.
Yeah. Well, that's also one of my complaints with the new player's handbook is like you go through the book and every single piece of artwork, everybody's smiling and they're happy and there's no grit. Even the monsters are smiling, and it's like it's and every outfit of that thing looks like. And I know this is a stupid complaint. They all look like they're cosplayers. They don't look like they're fantasy adventurers, and it's just it's tough for me to get invested in that book. At least the art. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all fantastic art, but it looks cheerful. And the previous one, like the previous player's handbook, like there's action in there. Like the players are doing stuff. Like there's people getting killed. There's combat and grit to the artwork. It actually feels like a fantasy world.
I think the artwork peaked at 3.5. That the artwork in 3.5 was so good.
Yeah.
I still remember some of those pieces.
I think I've got that on my shelf. But it's just okay. The best fantasy art. You got to go, Chaz.
No.
Okay. The best fantasy artwork, hands down, and nobody at this table can disagree with me, is when they put googly eyes on the RPG books.
Of course.
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
like the one on the Pathfinder player's handbook. Perfect, pitch perfect. It makes me want to do that to one of my books.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing against art though. The thing that matters most is obviously the rules, in my opinion, not the art. But the art adds to
playing.
Yeah.
Well, but then again, the game's only as good as the person running it. I mean, like if you have a good GM, who's passionate, like, you can make anything work. And so, I wish my presentation was better, because like I know what my skill is, but my well spokenness is not equal to it. So, like
you don't need it.
I think we can just, we can definitely say after this discussion that Woody is the man. Woody es el hombre.
Oh,
Woody es the home.
Well, if after see how long it's been, I think I've got to be closing on 40 years now, like, doing this, and if I'm not any good after that point, then there's something wrong. So I've been at this too long to be bad at it. So
I think I've been doing it for 30 years, but I don't know if it counts when you're in middle school and barely understand what's going on.
Yeah, well, I certainly didn't understand. I was just, but I mean, I started when I was 13, but I didn't.
That's when I started. Yeah.
But my gateway drug actually was this thing. Where is it? Oh, here we go. This book right here.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. And then also it's harder to reach, but Robotech was my other one. That was, it was, and they were both by the same company. So
Star Wars West End Games was my first game. I was like 12 or something. So.
Well, I started with D&D 2E, but my gateway that actually got me into it much more was a video game that implemented 2E. It was Dark Sun. It was I forget what the world's called, but the desert hellscape
Dark
thing.
Sun?
I forget. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Dark Sun. Shattered Lands was the game. Dark Sun was the setting. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, this book is awesome. It's a lot of fun. If you can find a copy, or we're lucky enough to get it on the Kickstarter, this is fantastic. And you can tell it's good because they all have red masks. This was before they went colored.
Oh, really?
Yeah, believe it or not, Greg, they'd expected the readers.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the readers were expected to be smart. You read a black and white comic book, and you just knew the characters by the way they were behaving and the weapons they had. We didn't need color-coded masks and labeled belt buckles to know who the characters were.
Yeah,
I have a painting of Raphael's right here next to me.
Yeah, I was so offended with that cartoon that they dumbed it down. Where you watch the cartoon where they're being silly and stupid. Then I pick up my comic book where they're fucking killing bitches.
Oh, okay. It's like the original Batman. It was like this investigator that went around with a gun.
Yeah,
Wow.
No,
well, it worked out
financially
financially for everyone.
Yes, it did. No, the foot soldiers were like just homeless people and destitute people that got recruited by the Shredder and turned into ninjas, and then the Ninja Turtles killed them all.
That would be a little rough for kids.
Yeah. I mean, maybe
the most recent one was.
I when I was little, I was watching Star Blazers. People got killed all the time. Like, so I mean, I was well over that. Like, but by the time Optimus Prime died, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it sucks, but I guess he's dead. I was not walking out of that theater in tears. I understood what was happening.
They wanted to traumatize children back then.
But that thing, it did not traumatize me at all. It's like, okay, well, that sucks, but okay, what's next? And so
we definitely dealt with death earlier in ages back then. I'm pretty sure than they do these days.
This coworker I have had to take an anxiety day. Like, God damn it.
So funny enough, we get a mental health day off every month, and I think it's dumb, but I take it and I like it because it's an extra day off every month.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I would love to take that, but like I can't because I'm one of the most vital workers at my job. Literally, people panic when I talk with any discussion that I might be leaving. People start to panic.
Oh, that's called negotiation power.
I hope so. But,
all right, we're getting on a tangent here. So let's.
We're going a bit off.
We are.
So where can everybody find the game?
Miniaturedragon.com. You can pick up the physical book. You can download the PDF. I think they're great. Please check out our Orville show. You can watch us actually play this game with character classes you can't buy yet, but
That'll be a supplement.
I think it's fun. Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess check out our episode that we just recorded here as well, where we're
check out that genre play episode when it goes live. This episode will probably go live before that genre play episode, but keep your eyes open for it.
We're actually playing what actually was the first episode of our in-house playtest campaign when I first was launching the game, and maybe we'll do 4 parts. I don't know. We'll see what you guys want to do. But yeah, that campaign eventually, though, that campaign's going to be a full source book as well. I'm going to be on my eventual docket. I'm going to do like a Las Vegas source book, which will lay out the entire storyline of the original playtest campaign, and people can find out canonically what happened. But yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
It ended up going in. It as with every good campaign, it ended very differently where it began, and not where I thought it would end. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being on, and everybody check out Cybersymbiosis. Thanks for being on.
Yeah,
and running that one shot.
Yeah, that was great. I'll come back anytime.
All right, awesome.
Anytime.
Right. And thanks everybody for watching.
Good night, folks.
When the dice roll high, we touch